Welcome to eThekwini Matters. My name is Zimbili Mazibuko, your host. It's been a year since the city adopted the water and sanitation turnaround strategy on the 24th of April 2023. And the good news is that the strategy is beginning to yield the desired outcomes. This strategy seeks to improve the performance of the water and sanitation unit and reposition it to be able to meet the city's current and future water and sanitation demands. Today in studio, we are joined by Ednick Msweli, Head of Water and Sanitation in the city. Sigbingelele nongalo sikwamkele on eThekwini Matters.
Thank you, Zimbili, and thank you to the viewers.
Tell us more about the strategy.
Well, I'll start by saying I think it's the best thing that has happened to us, given the challenges that we faced. It identified, if I might start there, it just identified three key challenges that it's trying to respond to. Okay. And I think the residents of eThekwini know them. One is the security of supply in terms of the resource. Because remember, we get water from, it starts with the Department of Water and Sanitation, national. The minister is the custodian of all the water in South Africa. So you've got to have a water resource, which is dams. So the strategy identified that and said you need certainty there, that you have raw water. So it dealt with that. So there's an element of that in it. And then it comes to what is happening in our space, because we distribute, right, as a municipality, having bought water from Msweli. So it's raw water from the national, Msweli water treats it and it comes to us. There were not too many challenges around Msweli, so it sort of jumped and came to us and said, okay, you've got some challenges in the distribution because, and the evidence of that is the water tankers that you see going around to various suburbs. Because if everything was working well, there would be no water tanker. You would be opening your tap and water would come out. But it's a value chain, so if you don't have enough raw water, you're going to have a problem on the tap, and so on. And then it identified the third part being the sewer issues, in the fact that I think you know that we've had some of our beaches closed. Yes, yeah.
Let's look at, since the strategy was adopted, what progress or positive impact has it had on the residents and businesses?
The first benefit is us talking to each other, because now we've got something to talk around. And I think I'm thankful for this podcast, because it means the stakeholders are also going to get to know more about the strategy itself. When we went to business said, why didn't you tell us you have a strategy? We said, we've been fighting with you that sometimes Umhlanga is down, sometimes Phoenix is down, certain many areas of the city. And we said, no, we have a strategy that we're implementing. And if we implement that strategy, your problems are going to be resolved. And really, it was something when they said, but we didn't know that. And we realized that all this good work that we are doing, nobody knew about it. So that's one of the things that's got us talking. The roadmap is clear in terms of how we move from the challenging situation that we're in at the moment to this new city of Durban that we are all looking for. And I think it's a very clear roadmap. What we need to do, the milestones, the content is very clear in terms of what we need to do.
Since you are talking about the challenges, does the strategy address the challenges with water supply affecting many areas in eThekwini? And what is the plan to ensure that there's water security in the city?
If you look at the availability of raw water, the one big decision we needed to take in terms of the strategy was expediting the Umkomazi Dam, Upper Umkomazi Dam. And because of that, before that we were doing it, but the strategy came and put pressure and say, you do it now because you have a problem, obviously. And we took that to council, and I'm happy to report that in January, council supported that project. Remember, we buy 75% of the water that Msweli water produces. So for a big dam like that one, Umkomazi Dam, if we as the city of eThekwini don't support it, it can't happen. That project is going to cost about 23 billion. So it means the city of eThekwini will have to contribute 75% of the 23 billion that is required. So it would have been a non-starter if we had not supported it. So we took it to council. Because of this part of our strategy, it was supported, and it's now all systems go. The minister just last Saturday, we had an event where the dam is going to be constructed. I think just more of awareness to make people aware that this project is now happening. So we are implementing that. Obviously, that solves your long-term problems. What the strategy says you must do in the short term, to respond to the question you just mentioned, how is it going to solve the problem for people that don't have water, get water in their taps? It says sort out water losses. And as part of that strategy, in fact, a decision was made that we must install 80,000 water meters every year. So we've started with that. This is our first year. We're not quite going to meet the 80,000 in the first year, but we're going to do 50,000 new water meters this year. Then from next financial year going forward, we've got to achieve the 80,000. So that's just one of the initiatives that helps you reduce your water losses. When you reduce your water losses, then you have more water to give people. And hopefully then people will start to see more water in their taps. There are many other elements to that, fixing leaks, improving our turnarounds with that, the performance of our call center. We had one of the best performing call centers for quite a few years. You'll be surprised that we measure how long it takes for us to answer a call. In the years that I've been here, we used to pride ourselves that we want your call answered within 3 rings. And I don't know if any organization can match that. We say before it rings the 3rd time, somebody must have answered it. Okay, but because of the many challenges, I think we've declined in terms of performance there. We are now around 75% of the calls being answered within 30 seconds. But the strategy says that must go up to 90% of calls answered within 30 seconds. So we're pushing ourselves in that direction. So there's a number of things we're implementing. But at the center of the strategy, it's saying recreate the water and sanitation unit as a business unit, which is not what we have. It's a big departure from where we've come from. When I arrived in 2002, my predecessor, Mr. Neil McLeod, who was then the executive director of water and sanitation, he used to have his own director of communications, for example. So, and I'm not saying what we have now is bad, but that's how it was. So the strategy says recreate it. It must be a business unit. If I need vehicles, I must not go and negotiate with someone else in another unit. Yes. I must have that authority and the capacity and the staff, everything happening in the same unit. So that's now the thrust of what we are currently trying to do. The city manager has made that decision that must happen. He's issued is a memo that is written and saying effective 1 April this year, we must go back to that water and sanitation as a business unit. So we are now starting with implementation of that.
The strategy also talks about involving the private sector. Can you tell us more about that and the projects?
That is also quite important. It's going to be fundamental for us achieving what we want to achieve. Because what it recognizes is that you don't have all the capacity within government that you need to deliver on this task. It's a mammoth task, this task of water. I'm sure you've heard people say in future wars will be fought over water. It's because it's a finite resource. You know, this Mkomazi Dam I'm talking about, it's the last of that size dams that we can build in KZN. So when that one's finished, it'll be basically no more surface water. You then have to start looking at other things. So it's quite important that we implement that one.
And Msweli, how is the construction of the Southern Aqueduct and the new Northern Aqueduct augmentation pipeline going to improve the supply of water?
And just to link it to your previous question, because I don't think I answered you 100%, but you were asking about the private sector. We're getting old. Yeah. The business chamber is obviously a big player when you're talking private sector. So we were talking to them. And I mentioned to you earlier that they said, why didn't you tell us you had a strategy? Because they were concerned. When there's no water in the north, many businesses are affected. So they kept coming to us, and then the sewer issues as well. The Ohlange pump station was a famous one that they were talking about, saying it's chasing business away from eThekwini. And even now they're quite vocal. And then they've met with the president recently. And out of that engagement that they had with the president, an interministerial working group has been created. And that interministerial working group has got 8 work streams. All right, so there's other work streams, but one of the work streams is water and sanitation, which shows you how important water and sanitation is to the economy of the city. So the president has, and then I think the deputy president has been tasked to actually run with that. So we want business to get involved. We've recently issued an expression of interest. It's again saying to private sector, come forward. If you have any idea or any way that you think we can improve the situation, there's a platform. Because obviously you know that we've got to comply with the Constitution in terms of Section 217. I can't just say, okay, private sector, here's a work, you go do it. We must follow a process. So the expression of interest is supposed to then create a platform through which they can come forward with their good ideas and we implement them. So certainly they are on board.
Msweli, I do understand that there's great progress that is being made to resolve sanitation blockages. Maybe you can take us through that process?
Okay. I hope I don't miss some of the questions. So the Southern Aqueduct, again, if I might go back to that one, that is a very, very important project in the city. Umlazi at the moment, and I'm just quoting one of the areas, you've got Chatsworth and many other areas. But if you took Umlazi, they get water. Every night we have to shut the reservoir outlets and open in the morning because we have to build up storage so that they have water during the day. So that's the plan at the moment. And it's been like that since 2015. So it's a long time, nearly 10 years that they only have water during the day. We were aware that we needed to do that project called the Southern Aqueduct to solve the water supply in the south. But it was, the costs were just prohibitive. At that time, we were estimating 450 million, but our budget just could not accommodate that. So, but with this strategy now in place, you really cannot say you're turning around the city and have people having water half the day, every day. So that decision has yet been made. We have to implement it. We must find the money. As I understand it, I think the CFO is taking a special loan for that. That's what I understood he's doing. But the investment in water infrastructure has significantly increased because that's been identified as one of the root causes that brought us to where we are. So that project is now happening. We've appointed 2 contractors. They are on the ground. The mayor has gone there and introduced those 2 contractors. So we've said to them, your program is 2 years, but do something so that within 6 months people start to get water. So within 6 months, that scenario I just painted for you is going to change. People of Umlazi will now get water all the time, and then we obviously will take our time to do the rest of the work, which will not impact on them. But on the sewer side, we really did have some challenges that had led us to beaches being closed. People there forget that climate change has not been kind to us. And everyone is just saying, oh, beaches are being closed as if they were just closed. I've challenged someone and said, they use E. coli levels to measure the extent to which we are polluting. I said, okay, just go and look at your data and say, when did these E. coli levels start going up? Was it pre-floods or post-floods? And I'm quite certain it's going to be post-floods, which shows you that our problem started there. Our infrastructure was damaged. And we are up to today, yes, we've repaired most of it, but up to today we're still busy with those repairs. We are not finished. How do we prove that, and how do I know that? Is because we measure what arrives at the treatment works. Remember, this is coming from people flushing. You flush your toilet, it goes down the sewer pipes, it must end up in a treatment work. So we can see that what we are receiving in the treatment works is not what we were receiving before. So which means our problems are not over, but we've made progress, significant progress. Those volumes are going in the right direction. There is improvement. So what we are doing is, there were 6 of these wastewater treatment works that were damaged, and that is really a lot of work. One of them is costing us more than 500 million. Now we've got 6 of them. Others will be a little bit less. But we've started work with this big one called Northern Wastewater Treatment Works. The contractors on site, they are working. That's the one that was affecting the beaches here, closer to the city. So again, we've said to that contractor, you've got a lot of scope, you're going to take 2 years. Do what is required to stop the pollution of the beaches. So they are focusing on that, and then they can take their time doing the rest.
Mhlambe Nongalo, would you like to add anything else before we conclude?
I think what I can add is that, remember, if you can have the best plan, but if it's not funded, it's not worth a piece of paper it's written on. Like I've just spoken about that treatment works. If all I knew is that we have a plan, we need to fix this works, and I didn't have the 500 million, it would not take us anywhere. So what I've noticed in the last 2 financial years, the current financial year and the new one that we are currently consulting on at the moment, is that I think the city has taken a deliberate decision to prioritize water and sanitation, and that's really something we should be proud of. They've identified this as a problem, and allocating budgets to address all these issues. Remember, for me, it really would be foolish not to do that. If you look at how much we're losing on the water losses side, okay, we call it non-revenue water, so it's not all of it physical losses, but let's say non-revenue water, meaning water for which you don't get revenue. That is in excess of $1 billion. I think we're around 1.7 billion a year in non-revenue water. So the do-nothing scenario says I lose 1.7 billion. Yes, so it means we can't even afford the do-nothing scenario. We've got to do something. Yeah. And I'm quite happy that the city manager, the CFO, the leadership, political leadership of the city has really seen this as a priority, and hence then they're now starting to prioritize investment in water and sanitation infrastructure. The strategy starts with that. It says you have a negative cycle at the moment that you have to change to a positive cycle. So if you read that document, they said a negative cycle is where you don't invest in infrastructure, people don't pay, it follows, and then obviously your service deteriorates. So that's sort of the cycle we're in. So the strategy is saying it's trying to move us from that to a positive cycle where we then invest, which is, I'm saying we've started already in this last 2 financial years. Then the service will improve, and then people will pay. So when people pay, then you've got money to reinvest. Then it's a better cycle. It means you're going somewhere. I think we're going in the right direction. With support, we'll make it.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
Thank you, Babu Msweli. That was Ednick Msweli, Head of Water and Sanitation in eThekwini Municipality. My name is Zimbili Mazibuko. From myself and the team, we'll see you next time. Don't forget to like, to subscribe, to share.